Welcome to the Delighted Customers Podcast. I am so glad you're here. We challenge conventional thinking about customer experience because I believe that improving experiences isn't just good for business, it's a powerful way to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. Each week, we feature thought-provoking conversations with industry thought leaders from a variety of backgrounds, offering unique perspectives and actionable insights. Get ready to sharpen your leadership and transform your approach to customer experience. Let's dive in. Welcome to this episode of the Delighted Customers Podcast. I am so excited to introduce my guest, Baran Erkel from User Testing. He's the Chief Strategy Officer. I can't wait to tell you about what user testing does and how it can impact the customer experience and delight your customers. We've got no one better than the person who is heading up strategy at User Testing to tell you what it's all about. Baran, welcome to the show.
Mark, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. So before we jump into the topic, could you please give our listeners a little bit of background on how you got to where you are now in the role that you're in and specifically what your responsibilities are now?
Absolutely. I'll start with what I do right now and then how I got there. So I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at User Testing, and I'm responsible for strategy, corporate development, which is primarily mergers and acquisitions, as well as our product management for our software platform and our panel side of the business. And I took a circuitous route to strategy work in software companies, but I started as a developer very early in my career, computer science major many moons ago, and then took a detour in consulting and during that time moved in from building systems to working on business problems and business strategy and getting closer to customer needs and how those affect business strategy, and then moved into enterprise software and have been doing enterprise software for 15 years now.
Excellent. And so today we're going to be talking about, loosely entitled, Designing for Trust, How to Build Confidence from the First Click to the Last Mile. I love the topic. I love talking anything trust. When it comes to institutional trust, I think it's a lot trickier. Both are difficult for sure, but it's a lot trickier to get your arms around than personal trust, which is already tough enough. But first of all, let's do some definition around it. When we're talking about first click to last, can you help give us a sort of the landscape of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we look at customer experience quite holistically. We have traditionally been very popular and known for digital experiences and digital product teams, but we've also been used quite extensively in marketing and CX organizations as they try to really understand the voice of the customer. And so when we talk about first click to the last mile, it's really holistically, you might call it omni-channel, in marketing and CX language, thinking about how we serve or how our customers serve their customers and really understand their needs when they're designing experiences, whether they're digital products like a loan origination on a bank website, which is very valuable, and a lot of our customers use us for testing, through to physical experiences where you can get feedback from customers in an actual experience in quite short order. So we think of it quite holistically, and we think about designing those experiences in the sense of everyone is ultimately a designer and an architect of their business's products, the experiences they provide to their customers. And so everyone needs to kind of think about the customer need and designing for trust.
Love it and agree 100%. And so as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about the listener. I have some personal experience with using user testing, but others may not. So if I could helicopter back up a couple of thousand feet and ask you a little bit more about user testing, like when did it come about? Give me an idea of like how large you are, how you guys are structured, and then what would you say is sort of the range of your ideal customer?
Absolutely. So user testing's been around since 2008, and we've been serving product builders, marketers, and CX professionals since then, really enabling them to get human insights, customer insights rapidly to make decisions and improve their products and experiences. So we're the largest leader in that space. We serve 3,000 customers, and we're really focused on mid-market and enterprise customers. We've got the largest companies in the world as very significant and strategic customers, as well as a lot of customers in financial services, high technology, and retail. But we serve customers across all industries, but really try to focus on those enterprise customers that really have lots of complex needs around customer experience, human feedback, and staying close to customers, which I think is a challenge that continues and won't be solved fully anytime soon.
Well, as long as you got humans involved, it becomes complex, right?
100%.
All right. So what I'd like to do is jump into some of the misconceptions that people have about this type of way to get customer feedback. And some of the mistakes that people make when they're trying to get customer feedback. But if it's okay, before we do, I'd like to kind of scratch the itch that C-suite leaders may be thinking about, which is, why should this be a big deal to us? If we're in the C-suite, there's a lot of ways we can learn about our customers. Why should I care about putting an effort like this forward?
Great question, and one we talk about with our executives at our customers quite a bit, and many more get it now, I would say, than they did 10, 15 years ago. It is, I don't need to tell your listeners, it is a very competitive and dynamic marketplace, and customers have more choice than ever. And to stand out on that playing field, you've got to be good. You've actually got to be great. Your customer experience, your products, the thought you put into those really has to stand out. Otherwise, you're going to be commodified and competing on price, which I don't think most of executives want. What we see executives really looking for is they understand the value of feedback and insights, but they want to make it connected to business results and outcomes. And so the best performing companies actually find a way to do that and institutionalize the practice of getting feedback to inform decisions, to drive outcomes, and they can see a through line through all those things. When you do that, it's a no-brainer. And so if we have skeptical executives or customers or those that are wondering, the best thing we can do is tell them about a customer that's made that transformation and made that connection, or just put them in touch. And then it becomes this, aha, this is possible. And it makes complete sense. If I can hear the voice of the customer, and then I can see the results of listening to that and driving decisions based on that, why wouldn't I do that? And why wouldn't I spread that across my organization?
What comes to mind, Baran, when you're sharing this is a study that was done by Bain, I don't know, a while back. I imagine that the data hasn't changed a whole lot. And it was a survey that they did that surveyed CEOs of organizations and asked them how they felt they were delivering the customer experience. 80% said they were excellent, excellent, the highest possible, top box. But only 8% of their customers agreed. And so there's that gap. People call it the CX gap, whatever you want to call it. But maybe part of the reasoning behind this is to ensure that you don't have a blind spot as a leader and you've got real customer-related customer feedback. Am I on point with that?
You are absolutely on point. We talk about that as the experience gap. And, if you just think about a day in the life of an executive, a CEO, or the executive team, how much do they spend inside the four walls or now the virtual walls of their organization and team meetings and talking to employees and team members, and versus how much do they spend with their customers, talking to customers, or in their own digital or physical experiences alongside a customer? It's very lopsided, and that's just the nature of business, right? We have to run and manage and lead businesses, spending time with our people, making decisions, etc. And so the way we've seen some customers, a lot of our customers close that gap between what they think they provide and what others perceive is, it's not rocket science, but it takes some thought. It is getting closer to the customer and listening to the customers. And we can talk about this more, but doing it proactively rather than reactively. That's how you start to close that gap. But yeah, I don't think those stats have probably changed a lot. It is it is quite stark reminder.
So, Lee, a great segue into the question about misconceptions about customer feedback methods and the value of customer feedback and mistakes that people make. Let's talk a little bit more about that. What do you see as the mistakes? And one of them, if I might ask a leading question, is they don't think they need it at all.
That is, I think that people say they need it, but they think it might be different things. What do we mean by it? Very basic example. Everybody has a CSAT program, an NPS program. Some businesses and leaders think that that's enough, that is it, that is listening to the customer. And what I've seen and what we see with our 3,000 customers is that is helpful, but it is not the full story. If you've ever taken a survey like that as a consumer, as an individual, you know that's not providing your full experience, your thoughts, and how much you trust that brand, what feature you liked or didn't like in the product, all of those things. So that is one mistake I see is like, hey, we've got a robust program. We get these reports. I can see numbers. Executives, we love numbers. You can't manage what you can't measure. But stopping there or thinking that a robust program and that is it, it's just one part of the puzzle. The best in class do much more.
So I want to talk about, you mentioned NPS or voice of the customer programs, and I want to talk about how user testing is not a survey. And I want to talk about the power of it. And from your standpoint, why is it a differentiator?
Absolutely. We like to say that there are a ton of voice of the customer programs out there and a ton of money spent on them. My good friend Jamie Anderson, our president of field operations, was a former CMO, worked in large companies. He said, I would get reports on voice of the customer once a quarter. I paid $1.5 million for them. But I never actually heard the voice of the customer. I was reading a giant PDF from a research agency that was no voice and reactive. We are the leader in video-based feedback. I don't think anyone in the world actually provides more video-based customer sessions than we do. Over $1.5 million a year of individual customers providing detailed feedback across a range of use cases, whether it's very conceptual, whether it's about brand and trust, or whether it's about a very specific change you want to make to the shopping cart, checkout page on your e-commerce application. Runs the gamut. But the key is you get so much richer feedback, so much more information when you have the video. It's not just what they're saying, it's their body language, it's their tone. So that's one key differentiator. Now, we do also provide surveys. We find that a lot of our customers like to get feedback in multiple ways and triangulate to make the best decisions for their business. But we're not an NPS kind of survey tool, CSAT survey tool. We provide a range of capabilities to get closer to the customer. And our most popular by far is video-based feedback because it is so rich. And we can talk more about this, but you need people to be willing to give that feedback, take the time and do that in a video-based way and be motivated to give good insights. And so we work really hard on that as well.
Baran, we are moving more and more toward a digital world. I've heard, I'm going to paraphrase, but I've heard it said that regardless of what industry you're in, you have to be in digital. Your customers are going to experience your brand in digital. And I think that user testing has a unique ability to inform how customers are experiencing your product or service in a way that surveys can't really capture. Could you share more about, immerse us into that experience if you're trying to explain to someone how the outcome of using your product, and I'm really not trying to make this a commercial because I really an infomercial for you guys, even though I do appreciate what you do. For me, the basis of this question about immersing people in it so they get an idea of what this is, because I do want to talk about AI and how AI might complement, overlap, intervene, whatever the right word is, with the service that you offer, and why there is sort of a holy shrine in my mind for really being able to look through the lens of the customer as they experience your brand, whether that's before they even start engaging with you, all the way to after they've left you for a moment, maybe they become a future customer again.
Yeah.
But anywhere in that whole customer life cycle. And so the reason I believe this is whether it's journey mapping, automated journey mapping, whether it's getting customer feedback, traditional ways, getting customer feedback through what we're about to talk about, or speaking to customers, manage my walking around, getting out and walking in their shoes. I believe that AI is not going to replace that. And if you think it's going to, you're missing a critical component of what you need to be able to design and deliver an experience that's a differentiator.
Absolutely. Yeah, we could talk about, I think, those topics for a while, and AI is something we're reading about and thinking about and prototyping around every day. So would love to dive deep in that. Maybe just to get to start with the digital part, I could start with a very quick story that leads to kind of what customers then do with platforms like ours. I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I spent some time in Palo Alto, and there's a famous coffee shop in Palo Alto called Coupa Cafe.
Struggling to connect the dots across your customer journeys? You're not alone. For many CX professionals, journey mapping is still manual and fragmented, especially in large organizations. JourneyTrack changes that. Their platform unifies journey mapping, management, and measurement in one place, giving you a real-time view of every touch point. Uncover friction, align teams, and prove the ROI of your CX initiatives so you can make smarter decisions and deliver smoother journeys. Want to see how AI can help you map smarter, not harder? Download our free white paper at journeytrack.io/podcast or click the link at the end of the show notes to get started with AI-powered journey mapping in minutes.
And it's near Stanford University. It's right off of University Avenue in downtown Palo Alto. Beautiful area. And it's famous for startup founders sitting there looking for people to test their apps against. And I remember I had first moved to the Bay Area, heard about this cool cafe, didn't know this part of the story, but having a cup of coffee, and I would always get some young, usually Stanford computer science student, just lean over, see I was alone reading a book or something, and say, do you have a few minutes? Could you try my app? And they would have, iPhone was early days, they would have an app and they were trying to make it big and start a business, and they were then going to walk down the street and try to raise money. And I'd say, yeah, sure, of course. I love meeting people and helping people, and I would go through and say, oh, this is confusing, or this doesn't make sense, or this is great. Oh my gosh, I love this. And oftentimes they'd say, hey, can you try doing this task? Like try to add a friend to this social network or whatever. And so literally every time I went there, if I was alone, I would get one of these, and then I learned this was kind of just the spot. That is great. I mean, think about the entrepreneur trying to find product market fit. They live or die based on the customer. They live or die based on whether they meet the need. First understand the customer, understand the problem, and then meet the need of the problem and deliver a great solution. It's no different for big companies. It's just you get out of the coffee shop when you're in a big company. You're in your office and you get farther away from the customer, and you start thinking, I need to get consultants to talk to my customers, or just all I can do is mass surveys. What we enable is basically taking that Coupa coffee experience and doing it at scale and making it really easy and fast, even if you're in the HQ building, to virtually sit with the customer. And so one way people use this is like this, a video conversation where they're asking the customer questions or looking at an application, looking at their screen as they go through your prototype or your app or your digital experience, whatever it is, your website, and getting feedback this way live. Another very common way is even more common is without someone live moderating it. It's called an unmoderated test, and you send some instructions to people and you say, try to check out from this experience. We're trying to make it more efficient. What do you think of our one-click buying? And I want you to follow these 5 steps. And panelists, there are people out there that do this. It's kind of gig work and they do it for money, but they also, a lot of them do it because they really like contributing and they want to see better experiences for all of us and less frustrating experiences. And they'll go through those steps on video, thinking out loud. It's called think out loud testing. And you can do that with tens, with hundreds of people. So it basically lets you scale Coupa Cafe in Palo Alto, get the feedback from the customer, and lets bigger companies be more like startups and be more agile and faster.
Love it. We'll be calling Coupa Cafe in Palo Alto for some ad sponsorships, opportunities for the show. What a great story. Love that story. Think Out Loud is really cool. We used it at the bank. We use user testing at the bank I worked for in the past for a new account opening for B2C customers, because in the past it was all you got to go to a branch and there was no online self-service version of it. So user testing, I'm sure we do a great job of that. And what you talk about is, for me to think about being able to get back from the product manager or head of marketing or even CX, or to be able to get back customers as they're clicking through different spots on your site and saying, why is that button over there? Why can't I have a field that just does this, ask me for this? Why do I have to re-enter this information over and over again? Those kind of things. So surveys and feedback will tell you, and operational data will tell you that they checked out, like that they clicked off your site, or that they went on and then they didn't complete a cycle. It'll tell you that. It'll tell you also if they were dissatisfied or wouldn't recommend you. But it won't tell you the nitty-gritty of what went wrong, like what specifically
Absolutely
disturb them, unless you're really lucky and really, really great at getting text analytics. And even then, you end up in the macro world and you might miss some important nuances. Would you agree?
100% agree. Most current feedback methods tell you the what is happening. Like you talked about, analytics, surveys. What happened doesn't tell you the why. We talk about you need to understand the why to provide a truly great customer experience. And what better way to understand why people think the way they do, feel the way they do about your brand or your product than to see them, hear them, watch them, try it.
So we've really had a good conversation around talking about the differentiators and why this is important. Are there any other strategies, if you were to advise a CEO or a head of operations, for example, who felt like they were missing something, they had some gaps, maybe they were really concerned about the experience gap in their own organization, because maybe there was some smoke in the data, or through some particular customer outcries, and they wanted to set up a strategy. How do they begin to even think about this, other than calling your team, which they could do? But from a strategic standpoint, your chief strategy officer, what are some ways that we can help them out?
Absolutely. First, I think it's stating that it is a priority and something for the organization to work on. It's not letting the team assume that what they're currently doing is good enough. So the executive has the bullhorn. They can say, this is a priority and we need to do better. We need to find ways to do better. I'd say the second is a mindset shift from it's difficult and there are old ways of doing it, the reactive once a quarter or only kind of large scale quantitative surveys that are impersonal. There's just a mindset shift needed to understand that different ways of working are possible. You can get closer to customers at scale more quickly and actually proactively. I think there's just actually a lot of, maybe we should call the awareness gap. Like there's just not enough awareness, I'd say, especially in marketing and CX executives, that the kind of 50-year perhaps agency model, that there are other ways of getting feedback and insights. We're seeing more and more awareness now, but that would be the second big thing, is like mindset shift, that it's possible. Ask the teams then to go and solve it. And I think most executives will be surprised once they let their teams loose on what they can bring back. And I've seen customers transform from very reactive, old ways of getting feedback to the voice of the customer is like around the executive table. Like they will have the executive team seeing videos, hearing customer feedback, and really informing, the big strategic decisions all the way down to the feature decisions.
And from my experience too, is there's really nothing quite like the executives
experiencing what the customer is experiencing.
Absolutely. Seeing is believing. Seeing and hearing, is super powerful. It's kind of a no-brainer when you think about it, that every company should be doing this. But I just think that the methods have not been there in the past, and the kind of awareness has not been there. So, something around bringing the customer into the room. I think Bezos was famous in the early days of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, where he'd have the empty chair around the executive table, which represented the customer. That was a great metaphor and just a great kind of statement of priority. But now there's technology that can really help actually bring the voice of the customer in the room, and all the way, everything except for actually physically bringing them in, which you can always do, but doesn't scale as well.
Right. What we talked briefly earlier, and maybe we'll kind of finish out our conversation on this note, is AI and the role of AI. And where do you see the intersection of AI and user testing and methods to collect customer feedback?
Yeah. It is a topic we spend a lot of time on, and me personally, as Chief Strategy Officer, spend a lot of time on trying to look around the corner. I think a lot of us are, especially in technology, and it's exhilarating and exhausting at the same time because things are moving so fast. So we're in the summer of 2025 now. AI is going to change and is changing the way these kinds of platforms and tools work, but it's also going to change the type of work that our customers need help with. So on the first one, it is more automation, and what we talk about is being an agentic AI first platform that will basically make it even faster and easier to get human feedback. And so today, if it's 10 steps to set up a test, pick an audience, put in your criteria or your prototypes to get feedback on, and all the way through to getting insights back, let's say that's 10 steps in an hour, a few hours, it should be as easy as typing a prompt into ChatGPT and getting the insights back. We have so much data from almost 20 years of customer feedback, customers asking for feedback from their customers. We can actually automate most of that process. And so we talk about kind of agentic AI first testing, research, and insights generation. And I would say that's just to be expected. I would hope people would think we're working on that, and we are. The second part is also super interesting, which is what this means for our customers' products and their experiences that they're trying to provide to their customers. And if we talk digital, I think AI is going to impact every digital product and experience in fundamental ways. It started with search and ChatGPT. Now it's software development and all of these, software development, agentic coding tools. It's going to impact every digital experience that we use. And it's going to be a fundamental shift. It's not just a new kind of paradigm, new way of designing a website or a minor technology. It's a fundamental shift. And so to survive in the AI age, every company is going to need to rethink their experiences, and what better way to try to get it right than to try it on your customers and get their feedback. So we really think about how we help our customers make this transition into the AI age and be winners in that age. And it's really helping them get feedback on those new experiences. And I think it's more important now than ever because this is a once in a 20-year or more paradigm shift in technology.
We are right at the cusp of it, and excited about what you guys are doing in that field. I'm sure I love that, exhausting and exhilarating at the same time. Hey, I loved our conversation. I want to end it by asking you the same question I ask all my guests, which is, what delights you as a customer?
What delights me as a customer is when I know that the people behind the company or brand have put a lot of thought and care into the details of the experience. I'm a very detail-oriented person. I can be a great customer because if I love a product or service, I will tell everyone about it. I will evangelize for you. But if it's been sloppily done, if it hasn't been designed well, I will not be happy. I'll be pretty vocal. And you can just tell. You can just tell when somebody really cares and they've taken the time to get feedback, to put themselves in my shoes. And you can tell they care about their work, and I appreciate that as a customer, as just, fellow human being. So that's what delights me, is you could call it deep kind of empathy, but just really thinking about me and having the attention to the details.
Excellent. Baran Erkel, thank you so much for being on the Delighted Customers podcast.
Mark, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Delighted Customers Podcast. It would mean so much if you would take a moment to subscribe. You can go to Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts, click on the plus sign or follow button, and that will ensure that you don't miss an episode and it helps get the word out to others. While you're there, I'd love it if you'd leave a 5-star review. I look forward to seeing you back here next Thursday.